Welcome, everybody, to the latest Trunk Nation virtual invasion coming to you on SiriusXm Volume 106. It is a great honor to be joined by a man that I've been a fan of since the beginning and had a chance to interview many times over the decades. It's always great to visit with Bruce Dickinson. Bruce, thank you so much for the time. How are you today?
I'm okay, doing good actually. Having chilling out, as they say, slightly.
I was going to chill out myself with one of these, Bruce. I just was sent some of the Hellcat beer here from Iron Maiden a bit early. I'm on the East Coast in the U.S. A bit early for me to start, but it looks like it's going to be wonderful.
No, I've run out. I got a 6-pack the other day and it's gone. I'm like, damn, need some more. It's now it's really, really good. I'm delighted with it. Obviously, we had to go really round the houses a bit because of COVID, and there were some personnel changes in Brewdog, and I was supposed to go over there, and we're all kind of stuck on this side of the pond at the moment, but hopefully that will change. So in the meantime, it's out, and I think it looks great. I think it's a great looking can, and it's a great brew as well.
Yeah, anybody that's been lucky enough to be in an Iron Maiden meet and greet or backstage in the hospitality rooms, now you've got an array of beers to sample because you've always got the Trooper there, and now you can have some Hellcat there and the others. And beyond the fact, we all know there's a lot of artists that do their own branded beer or liquor, what have you. But I know you're really involved in this, and it's really, really good. I think that's the important thing to know. It's just not something to slap your name on.
No, well, that was the whole genesis of the project at the beginning, was that somebody approached us and wanted us to do exactly that, and we were like, well, we're not interested in doing that. If we're going to do it, let's be creative. At which point they sort of went, oh well, that sounds like a bit like hard work. And we went, oh yeah, but it's better to be authentic and do something, at least if you try it. And we were really lucky with the opening bid, traditional English ale, Trooper. We're 30 million pints plus now, but then we spawned a range of Trooper beers that are all brewed here. But now of course we've got an Australian lager, which we call an XPA, down in Oz. We've got a Brazilian mango chocolate IPA brewed down in Brazil. So the next option, obviously, because we love getting Trooper into the States, but it is just expensive to shift liquid thousands of miles across the Atlantic. We'd really love to have a partner to brew over here with. So Brewdog came along, and we were like, well, yeah, let's see how this works. And so far it's been great, and the liquid is brilliant. I mean, it's really got a kick to it. It tastes, in fact, my son had a can of it last night. He goes, wow, Dad, he said, this might be my favorite Brewdog beer ever. I said, but he said, the only problem is it tastes so good, but it's 6%. He said, so I couldn't do 4 pints of this. I think he'd have to grow in stature by a couple of 100 pounds, before he could do that. But it is great, and it's up there with a lightweight Belgian in terms of strength, but it scores big on flavor. It's lovely, great beer.
Well, I'll be digging in on the weekend. Now, speaking of being creative, another album from Iron Maiden seemingly dropping out of nowhere, and the second Iron Maiden album in a row that's a double studio record. I find it amazing in this era where people say, well, bands should only put out singles now and nobody wants albums and what have you. Leave it to Iron Maiden to buck that trend, and second record in a row that is a double studio record. Let me get this out of the way, Bruce, because before you came on with us, we had a debate among the folks on the team here. The proper pronunciation of the album, Senjutsu or Senjutsu?
Tomato, potato,
either
potato.
Is okay.
Either or either. Let's call the whole thing
Nico or
off.
Nico.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't. I really don't care. I honestly don't think it particularly matters. I call it Senjutsu. but Senjutsu would, just takes slightly longer to say. That's all. I mean, it's judo, it's jujitsu, or it's ninjutsu. So Senjutsu is how I would say it, but I'm not Japanese, so I think we'd have to defer to somebody from Japan for the what might be the correct pronunciation. But, that's the great thing about the English language. It's whatever you want it to be.
Whose idea was the title for the record and the concept? And somebody who is Japanese now is EDDIE, who is brilliant on the cover. It's a brilliant piece of art on the cover image as well. But whose idea was the whole concept for this, Bruce, and the album title?
No, that was all Steve. So he came along and said, look, I've had this idea and I think we should call the album Senjutsu. And I was like, okay, that's different. Kind of cool, Samurai Eddie. Yeah, that's really cool. What's it mean? And we got a few different versions of what it actually means. I think the closest you can get to it is that it's kind of the way of strategy and tactics, the philosophy of strategy and tactics. And funnily enough, there is and it's really the only track on the album that is specifically related to things Japanesey. The rest of the album is not really at all, except there's a kind of peripheral one, which is the track Stratego, which obviously there was a board game called Stratego. Well, it turns out that Stratego, the board game, was actually based on a turn of the century French board game, which in its turn was based on what they termed Japanese military chess. And Japanese military chess is otherwise known, I believe, as shogi. And it's a very complex version of chess because basically when you get some pieces to the other side of the board, they change sides. Which starts getting really complicated because actually one side does a takeover. So just at the moment when you think you've won, suddenly your own team turns against you, stabs you in the back. I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of prophetic, but anyway, Japanese military chess, Stratego. So there is this other, weird round the houses link that goes to it. But the rest of the album was just songs that happened, but we always like to put it in a nice box, in a nice framework with something really cool to hang it off. And so yeah, I mean, Book of Souls. Obviously, we had the whole Mayan thing, and that was good for a few songs. But again, we had songs on there about the First World War and Fokker triplanes and all kinds of stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be kind of slavishly following a particular storyline. In this case, it just hangs together as a sort of a visual concept, and it's great. I mean, the 3D Eddie was fantastic, and of course we got to slot him into the video as a 3D unit, which was something we didn't think about when we first started the video, but we were like, how could we make this work, having essentially a 2D video and then having a 3D figure come out of the fire pit at the end. So there was a bit of technical wizardry involved there, which I think worked pretty good.
Yeah, the video for the writing on the wall, which you're referencing, is brilliant. People have been able to see that. Just, Bruce, overall on the record, I mentioned seemingly to us, the fans, the record kind of came out of nowhere. But in reality, you had been sitting on it for quite a while. And the assumption from me and many others, so many bands made records during the pandemic lockdown because artists were home, they had nothing to do, let's make a record. This actually predated that. Can you fill the audience in on the seeds of this record, when it was written and how it was recorded? Because it was done quite a while ago, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we came off the initial Legacy of the Beast tour, and then we had a gap of several months, probably 6, 7, maybe 8 months before we started in the USA on the Legacy of the Beast tour, and then finished up in South America. So we were touring from kind of August all the way through till end of October time. And in the gap, we said, well, what are we going to do? Yeah, we could just go, Adrian could go do a lot of fishing. We could, David could go and lie on the beach next to his house in Hawaii. Very nice, But we said, well, why don't we take 2 or 3 months? Let's go and use some of the energy from playing live. Let's go and do an album. Heck, why not? And that was the thinking. And Nick, funnily enough, Nick turned up and he was all grumpy. He was all, I don't know why we're doing this. Oh, no, I was not happy in Florida, playing golf, And we said, well, it seemed like a good idea and blah, blah, blah. And, you don't have to be here for the whole time. You go back to Florida, And amazing that we did do it, because if we hadn't have done it then, we did go out on tour after that, and then we all came back, and then it was Christmas, and then 3 months later, the world ended. The original plan was to release the album basically at the end of the summer, in the first iteration of lockdown, if you like. Obviously we didn't know it was going to be lockdown. We thought we were going to be on tour, and the idea was we would release it then. But obviously that didn't happen. And then the following year, in other words, kind of like this year, we were supposed to be on tour all this summer. Clearly that was not going to happen either. And we've punted everything forward to next summer. And we thought, well, we cannot wait that long. So we got to go with the album this year. And we faffed around a little bit with exactly when and where and all the rest of it. But during the first lockdown, that's when the idea was seeded to go and spend a lot of time and energy doing a fairly extraordinary animated video. I say video, it's more like a kind of little mini 6.5-minute movie. And I thought it would be the sort of thing that might just seize people's imaginations, given that we've never done anything like that before, and given that there would probably be no touring immediately around the album. So that was the thinking on it. And then a few things, when you do stuff like that, things have a habit of happening around it that you never thought of. So that the project takes on its own life. So the kind of tease that we did on the internet, like with all the clues leading up to the release and everything, we never thought about that at the beginning. That was never part of our, I was involved in the storyboard and the storyline of the video and the making of and all that stuff. And I just thought it would be really cool to have a kind of some kind of world premiere. I was thinking like old school, actual cinemas. But of course, that was impossible. So a mistake that happened during the making of the video kind of produced this flyer, this poster, Belshazzar's Feast. And that's what gave us the idea. And in particular, fantastic girl works in our office, does all of our social media, and she's an internet genius, Sarah Philp. She came up with this whole campaign, did this amazing job on it. And so we utilized some bits at the beginning of the video, because at the beginning of the video, there was always supposed to be an invitation to Belshazzar's Feast. Because otherwise, why are all these people queuing up? Why is everybody going towards that building? What the heck is going on here? So unless you know that, that's once upon a time, there was a big building in the middle of a screwed up desert, right? So it's the Star Wars bit, in a galaxy far, far away, bosh. Without that, the video doesn't make a whole lot of sense at all for the, first halfway through it, because there's no opening storytelling bit. And we actually forgot to put that at the beginning of the video. So when the Iron Maiden fan face plants and dead, it's like, yeah, but he should have been clutching his last hope. He was hoping to get some kind of redemption from going to this thing. And basically, the guys in Blink Inc., who are amazing, but they just forgot it. They just forgot that part of the storyline. And we were so involved in the rest of it that we made the assumption that, of course, it was going to be in there when we saw the final edit. I thought, where is it? And Mark Andrews, who was ex-Pixar guy, and he's all story. He was like, we got to have it in there. You can't not have this part. It's essential, you know. So we came up with a poster as a quick fix rather than reanimate a whole bunch of stuff, which would take a long time. The poster came up and I just said, let's just make it like a black and white poster that looks like something that you'd see for one of these homemade things, like a homemade rave or something that people slap on a side of a concrete building. And I just came up with the, heaven or hell, live forever or live forever, depending on which way you want to, play with the words. And very, very simple. And that turned into this whole monster campaign, really. So a lot of things, a bit like our stage shows, when you see the whole thing, you think, wow, they must have spent years planning that. and the truth is we spent, sort of 3 or 4 months planning 50% of it. And the remaining 50% of what we do on stage and the pyro tricks and things like that end up happening over the course of the first 2 or 3 weeks as ideas occur to us as we do it with a live audience. So things aren't as set in stone. And that's honestly, those are the fun bits. I mean, they really are.
You had everybody guessing the whole Belshazzar's feast and the T-shirts that were leaking out and popping up and the teasing on social media. I mean, even myself, it was daily fodder for me with my audience. Well, that's going to be the name of the record, or that's going to be the single. I mean, it had everybody guessing and talking, and it was a lot of fun. But I've got to. We'll talk so much more about the record, and we have an audience that's going to join us here in a second, and I'm sure ask about the record. But I have one final question about the record before we get to the audience.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's extraordinarily difficult to not only record and make an Iron Maiden album with the fan base you have that is so rabid and so passionate and wants to know everything that's going on, to do that quietly and then have a completed record for over a year and have that also be unknown and not leak and make sure that it, stays under wraps until you're ready to unveil it. I imagine that turned out to be quite a challenge given the pandemic and the delay in releasing it.
Yeah, I mean, it helped that none of us had a copy of it.
Is that right?
Yeah, none of us had a copy of it. I mean, when we finished mixing it, I was the only one left in the studio, myself and Steve and Kevin. So we both we heard it through a couple of times in the studio, and that was it. Closed up the laptop, took the files, whatever it was, and literally it was stuck in a vault of whatever passes for a vault, electronic vault. But anyway, it was locked up and did not see the light of day to anybody. I mean, when I was doing the storyboard to writing on the wall and was coming up with a plot, I had to jump through hoops to actually get a low-res copy of just that track. Because I did make the point. I said, look, I am actually trying to storyboard the song, and I know I did co-write the song, but you know what? I'd actually like to listen to it while I write the ideas down, because it does help, actually. And I got this cryptic file that was called, I can't remember what the name of it was. It was like, it was like a Beatles, I think it had like a Beatles song name or something on it, in case somebody should see it on my laptop and go, what's that? And accidentally play it or whatever. So it was very, very amusing. But no, and the last, so the next time I heard it was when we were mixing Nights of the Dead, and Steve was doing it at his kind of home studios thing up in Essex. So he's up there tweaking that, and popped along, and he went, "Oh yeah," I said, "I've got it on the laptop," and he only heard it like once since he hadn't listened to it at all. So we just put it on and listened to it, and we went, "Wow, we did a really good thing here. You know, this is really cool. You know."
It must have been cool to have some distance from it then, and then come back and revisit it like that. And I'm curious, who had the key to that vault, Bruce? Was it Rod or was it Kevin Shirley, the producer? Who was the keeper of the vault?
Well, basically it was Steve. So nothing really
Steve
went out without without Steve, because he was very picky and paranoid about anything.
I envision it handcuffed to his wrist, like in a briefcase.
I mean, not even. I mean, I don't know where things get kept in digital vaults, so to speak. But I did actually get a copy, because when it was mastered in February, I went up and we were talking. I was talking Steve through the video, because I explained what it was, and then he saw some rough cuts. He went, "Wow, I love what you've done, man! Wow, great!" And then I said, "Well, can I go and get it on my laptop so I take a listen to it?" He went, yeah, go on then. So I went down to the mastering guy, and basically he just stuck a kind of medium res version on my laptop, because Steve was like, "Oh no, you got to have the, like, whatever it was, a 90 something K version." I went, "Steve, nobody listens to stuff on 90K version. I mean, no, you do, but everybody else listens to it on whatever stuff. So I want to listen to it on the way that most people are going to end up listening to it, which is on Spotify or wherever. I mean, there's going to be a better version, which is going to be, the version that's, that they can actually buy. And obviously there's vinyl and stuff like that. And that will all sound, markedly, better than all the stream stuff. Because at the end of the day, digital is okay, but it has very different quality levels. As anybody knows who listens to things on YouTube, and
Sure.
Stuff gets put on YouTube, and it makes me laugh when people comment on the sound. They're like, "Oh, I don't like the mix of this. It doesn't sound very good." It's like, well, duh, you're listening to it on like a $2 set of speakers and a $2 free download. I mean, what do you think is going to happen to the sound?
Compressed to hell, of course. And
it's horrible.
Terrible.
But you get all these audio experts, and it's like, well, if you're an audio expert, why are you even bothering to listen it? Why you even bother to comment on something that you're listening to on YouTube? That immediately tells me you're an idiot. You might as well say, I played this album with my head in a bucket the other day, and it doesn't sound good.
Exactly. Bruce, I could talk to you about so much more, but I want to let the audience jump in on this. By the way, the new Iron Maiden record that we're talking about, Senjutsu, is, if you're listening to this on its premiere on Wednesday, the 1st of September, the album is out this Friday. Now, we're replaying this multiple times, so if it's September 3rd or later, the album is available. So go get it, and I would strongly suggest a physical copy, whether it be CD or vinyl, not only for the better audio, but the packaging is going to be phenomenal, which is also a trademark of Iron Maiden releases.